Have you ever felt tired when you work nonstop every day, but your bank account doesn't get better? Waking up early, coming home late, taking on extra jobs, struggling for every penny, yet at the end of the month, there's still not much left? And then you ask yourself, is being hardworking wrong? Don't jump to conclusions. You're not lazy, you're not wrong. You're just making a very common mistake. Doing too many things without simplifying. Today, I want to tell you a truth. Rich people don't do a lot. Rich people do little, but do it right. So why can they live abundantly, have time to rest, travel, and invest, while you are too busy to even think about the weekend? Stop and watch this entire video, because this might be the last time you have to live in a frantic way just to survive. In today's video, I will share with you the reason why the more you simplify, the richer you become. The things rich people eliminate to optimize their finances, and 4 simple formulas to help you do less but live more abundantly. If you're working but can't save even $5 million at the end of the month, if you're busy all the time but don't see your life improving, if you feel like you're trying forever but not getting anywhere, this video is for you. This video is for you. Watch until the end, and if you see yourself somewhere in my words, comment, "I want to simplify," so I know you're still here. Let's start. Try to imagine waking up every morning without rushing. You have time to eat breakfast, plan in peace. You only focus on 1 or 2 jobs that genuinely generate income. You don't need 5 jobs at once, you don't need to work day and night, but you still feel abundant. Not because of luck, not because you were born rich, but because they know how to simplify finances and optimize life. It sounds simple, but to live like that requires a strong change in mindset, because most of us, since childhood, have been taught that the more you work, the more you earn. Whoever is more diligent will be richer. The busier you are, the better you are. But don't you see, the busier you are, the more stressed you become? The more you do, the more scattered you become. The more things you take on, the less complete anything becomes. On the contrary, rich people choose very little, but whatever they choose, they do it thoroughly. They don't care about rushing deadlines for 7 places. They don't jump into 10 small opportunities. They choose to focus, simplify, and optimize their finances and time. And this creates a huge difference. In the following sections, I will clarify the mistakes you are making that keep you poor despite being very diligent, the simplistic mindset that rich people use to build wealth, 4 principles to help you simplify your finances but maximize your cash flow, and especially practical examples that will make you change today. If you find this introduction relatable, please like the video, because the more people watch, the more people will be enlightened like you. And now we will begin with the first part, the deadly mistake of poor people, working a lot but still poor. Many of us grew up with the belief that if you work hard, you will be rich, that the busier you are, the more jobs you take on, the more proud you should be. You work 8 hours, come home and take on another job, take advantage of online sales, and then read financial books at midnight. You think you're on the path to success. But the harsh truth is that every month you're short on money. On weekends, all you want to do is sleep, your body is exhausted, your mind is chaotic, and most importantly, your bank account still hasn't moved much. Why is that? Because you believed in a very big mistake. The more you work, the richer you become.
Do you know one of the biggest paradoxes of poor people is that they think they have to grind to get rich? The more they grind, the more money they'll have. But rich people don't think that way. They don't work by burning themselves out, but they work by optimizing. Poor people do 10 things, each earning $1. Rich people do 1 thing, but earn $100. Not because they are better, but because they know how to eliminate unnecessary tasks. They don't waste time on things that create little value. They don't grab every opportunity just because they're afraid of missing out. They choose the most important task and do it as deeply as possible. Meanwhile, poor people suffer from a very common syndrome, fake busyness syndrome, meaning they always feel like they're doing something, but in reality, they're just going in circles. Constantly checking emails, replying to group messages, doing small tasks all day, but not creating real value. The busier they are, the more stressed they feel. But the more stressed they are, the more they think they need to do more to escape poverty. A vicious cycle that continues year after year. An easy example to see is investing time in small, low-profit jobs. Many people take on 4 or 5 jobs at the same time, each earning a few $100,000. They think it adds up to something worthwhile, but the truth is, they have scattered their entire focus. They're not good at anything, they don't do anything deeply enough, And the result is that big opportunities never come because no one dares to entrust important work to someone who works superficially. Rich people, on the contrary, can spend a whole week thinking about a strategy, or a whole month building a system. They are not rushed. They work selectively because they understand that time is the most precious asset. 1 hour of quality work is worth more than a week of busy work that produces no results. They would rather refuse 99 average opportunities to choose exactly one life-changing opportunity. The next mistake is thinking that knowing a lot means being strong. Poor people love to jump from one thing to another. They haven't finished learning about investing before jumping into crypto. They don't understand the essence of affiliate marketing before running ads and losing money. Every time they see someone succeed in a field, they immediately jump in. But rich people are different. They choose one thing and learn it thoroughly. They know that knowledge only has power when combined with focus and perseverance. Simplification here means knowing how to say no to dozens of fleeting opportunities to focus on what you are best at. Another reason why poor people work tirelessly but remain poor is that they cannot distinguish between labor and value creation. Many people think that just working long hours will make them rich, but the truth is not like that. You can work 12 hours a day, but if it's repetitive work with no scalability and no system creation, you're just depleting your energy. Rich people always find ways to work with leverage: knowledge leverage, technology leverage, system leverage, human leverage. One effort yields multiple returns. As for poor people, one effort yields one return, accumulating nothing but exhaustion. So if you're stuck in a continuous work cycle but don't feel more abundant, it's time to reevaluate. You don't need another job. You don't need to take another course. You need to simplify everything you're doing. Ask yourself a simple question. Is what I'm doing truly bringing me closer to financial freedom? If not, let it go, because your time is limited, and rich people understand that more than anyone. That's why rich people don't need to work a lot, but still live abundantly.
They are not drawn into the addiction of busyness. They don't follow the crowd. They don't take on everything just to feel valuable. They simplify. And thanks to simplification, they choose the right things, do them the right way, and achieve the right results. If rich people don't live complicated lives, they don't let their lives be dominated by dozens of unnecessary things. While many poor people spend money to buy feelings, rich people spend money to buy value. They understand that every penny must serve a specific goal, either to generate money or to create ease in life. And if an expense doesn't bring one of those two things, they'll pass it up without regret. Financial simplification for rich people is not about living ascetically, but about living selectively. The minimalist mindset starts with a question. What do I truly need to live better? Not needing more, but needing the right things. Rich people don't buy 10 shirts only to wear 2. They choose 2 really good ones that fit well, are durable, suitable, and wear them with confidence. In finance, it's the same. They don't invest in 10 places, a few $100,000 in each, only to have none of them yield results. They choose 1 or 2 channels that suit their abilities, research thoroughly, follow proper procedures, and generate steady profits. They know that focus brings greater results than dispersion. A friend I know had steady passive income from real estate at age 30. While his peers were still scrambling, worrying about every rent payment, he lived an easy life. He once said, "I used to work 3 or 4 jobs at the same time, sleeping only 4 hours a day. But after a few years, I realized what I was doing was trading health for short-term income. I stopped. I sold off unnecessary assets, I simplified my life, and I learned to invest slowly, steadily, and carefully. After 3 years of simplification, I no longer needed to work a lot. Money still came in." That story made me think a lot. Not everyone dares to stop, but whoever stops at the right time will go further than those who keep running without knowing where they're going. Rich people simplify at all 3 levels: material, financial, and mental. They don't let themselves waste energy on trivial daily decisions. Some successful entrepreneurs wear the same type of clothes every day, not because they lack money, but because they want to save their brain power for big decisions. They don't want to stand in front of their wardrobe every morning asking what to wear today. In finance, it's the same. They automate spending. They plan clearly for each category of money: living expenses, investments, emergency funds. They don't let emotions guide their wallets because they understand that a simple but effective system will free them from pressure and mistakes. Poor people are often caught up in the who has more game: more stuff, more work, more relationships, more responsibilities. But the more they have, the more exhausted they become. Rich people, on the contrary, they play the who has less but is more effective game. Fewer decisions, but the right ones. Fewer tasks, but higher quality. Less spending, but more valuable. That is the spirit of simplification. Simplification doesn't mean having less, but focusing more. And when you focus, you will develop many times faster. The minimalist mindset also helps rich people avoid a very dangerous trap: the trap of unconscious consumption. They don't buy things because of discounts. They don't invest because of FOMO. They don't spend money to show off. They spend according to long-term value. If an item doesn't help them earn more, learn more, or live more deeply, they don't need it. This may sound strict, but it's actually very liberating. Income systems are mandated by this.
Because when you cut out unnecessary things, you clearly see what is enough, and that enough is the beginning of abundance. Rich people understand that every penny saved today is a brick laid for tomorrow's freedom. But their savings don't come from living a hard life, but from living strategically. They don't let money fall into meaningless things. They don't buy happiness with material possessions. They invest in experiences, in knowledge, in profit-generating systems. They choose to live with fewer things, but of higher quality, and thus they are freer. If you want to be rich, don't start by doing more. Start by letting go of things. Let go of unnecessary tasks, people who don't help you grow, unworthy expenses, and unfounded fears. When you let go, you'll feel lighter, clearer, and from there, you'll have space to truly invest in what's important. That is true simplification. And it's also the smartest way to optimize finances and optimize life. Financial simplification is not just a lifestyle, it's a wealth-building strategy. Rich people know that, so they don't waste time chasing every penny. They focus on building a solid financial foundation. First is controlling expenses. They know exactly where every penny goes. There's no spending first and then checking the account. They budget, categorize income and expenses, and cut out things that don't bring real value. They understand that abundance doesn't come from high income, but from knowing how to save and use money correctly. The second principle is creating automated income streams. Rich people don't let money sit idle. They make money work for them. They invest in channels that generate steady cash flow, such as rental properties, dividend stocks, businesses with systems, or digital products. They don't rely on just one source of income. When one source is affected, other sources still ensure cash flow. That's how they remain unshaken by fluctuations. Simplification here means not doing everything at once, but choosing the right things that can operate independently and generate long-term profits. The third principle is optimizing time. Rich people don't use time for trivial tasks. They use time to think, design systems, and build strategies. They don't spend hours comparing prices of every item. They don't spend the entire morning talking aimlessly. They know that time is the only asset that cannot be regained, and so they invest time in things that can yield many times more results in the future. That's why they always seem relaxed. But in reality, every minute of their time is creating value. The fourth and most important principle is mental freedom. Rich people simplify even their thoughts. They don't carry dozens of worries in their heads. They don't let the past drag them down or the future frighten them. They live in the present with clarity. Every decision is based on principles, not fleeting emotions. They are not afraid of being judged. They don't need to prove anything to anyone. They choose simplicity in their minds to preserve energy for what's important. And that simplicity helps them stay alert and clear-headed, thus making accurate decisions. Financial simplification doesn't mean giving up all joys. On the contrary, rich people know how to enjoy life very well. But their enjoyment doesn't come from excessive material possessions, but from true freedom. Freedom from debt pressure, freedom from wrong choices, freedom from reliance on a paycheck. When you don't have to worry every time you spend money, when you can rest and money still comes in, when you can choose to live the way you want. That's when you understand why simplification is the path of the rich. Poor people often think, when I have a lot of money,
I'll manage it better. But in reality, it's the opposite. If you can't manage small amounts of money, you'll also fail with large amounts. Simplification doesn't require you to be rich already. It requires you to start today. Reevaluate all your expenses. Cross out unnecessary things. Learn to invest in yourself before investing externally. Eliminate emotional spending habits. Start small, but in the right direction, and large numbers will come. Simplification also helps you avoid dangerous social traps. The trap of showing off, the trap of competition, the trap of comparison. Rich people don't compete with anyone. They have their own criteria. They buy things because they need them, not because someone else is using them. They travel because they want to, not because they see others traveling. They don't need to prove anything because their finances speak for themselves. As for poor people, because they don't have financial principles, they are easily drawn into other people's games, buying unnecessary things, borrowing money without a plan, investing with the crowd, and then wondering why they never get ahead. Financial simplification, optimizing life, is a journey of awakening. When you start to see what is true value and what is fake, when you know how to refuse the easy to choose the right, when you no longer live according to others' expectations, but according to your own value system. That's when you truly embark on the path of doing less, but living abundantly. No need to grind day and night, no need to trade health for assets. Just be alert, selective, minimalist, and persistent. Rich people walk this path, and if you are ready, you can too. Simplification also brings an invisible advantage that very few people realize: deep focus. When you're not distracted by dozens of trivial tasks, when your schedule isn't crammed with meaningless appointments or obligatory tasks, you have space to truly think. Rich people use simplicity to create depth. They have time to see the big picture, to analyze strategies, to foresee risks, and to optimize every important detail in life. Meanwhile, poor people are often caught up in a chaotic rhythm of life, only reacting to what's happening rather than actively leading their lives. Try to recall the last time you had a quiet morning, undisturbed, just to sit and think about your long-term direction. When was that? Most won't remember because you're stuck between phone notifications, unexpected calls, urgent but unimportant requests. You don't live by a plan, but you live by the urgency of others. Rich people are not like that. They design their lives to protect their focus. They know that 1 hour of deep work is worth 10 times more than a day of half-hearted work. They use simplification to protect their intellect and energy from the distractions of the modern age. One of the biggest differences between the rich and the poor is not in their assets, but in their strategic mindset. Rich people always start with the question, how can I not have to do this forever? While poor people ask, how can I do a little more? One person seeks to multiply time and income, the other only tries to deplete themselves for every penny. Simplification here is correctly recognizing the value of your time, refusing tasks that cannot be scaled or leveraged. Simplification is the first step to escape the cycle of working endlessly without getting ahead, living without freedom. Rich people are also very clear in choosing relationships. They don't just associate with anyone. They don't attend every party, every chat group, every gathering. They choose people who help them grow in mindset, values, and opportunities. They simplify relationships to be deeper, not more scattered.
Poor people, on the contrary, are afraid of offending others, afraid of being judged, so they embrace everything. In the end, they are exhausted from both working and maintaining dozens of superficial relationships. Simplifying relationships doesn't mean being cold. It means being alert in choosing the right people to go further together. One more thing simplification helps rich people control their emotions. Have you noticed that the times we spend money most foolishly are when our emotions are unstable? Sadness leads to shopping to forget. Stress leads to overeating. Insecurity leads to borrowing money to buy a phone to avoid feeling inferior. Rich people don't let emotions control their wallets. They have clear rules. Every expense must serve a specific goal. They don't spend money to fill a mental void. They simplify to clearly see what are true needs and what are fleeting emotions, and that discipline helps them maintain long-term financial stability. Simplification also helps them clear unnecessary commitments. Poor people often fall into the trap of adding more, while rich people prioritize eliminating. You'll find that rich people have very concise schedules, but every appointment has a clear goal, while poor people's schedules are often packed, but after a week they don't know what they've achieved. Simplification is not about doing less, but about doing the right things. It's not about laziness, but about wisdom. They do things that create results, not just to feel busy. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you feel like you work all week but still can't make ends meet, it might be time to stop. Not to give up, but to re-choose, to cut, to simplify. Because when you're still scrambling on the hamster wheel of life, you never have enough quiet space to ask yourself, where am I running to? Am I running very fast, but in the wrong direction? Rich people don't run fast. They walk slowly but surely, and that's why they reach the destination first. Simplification is not a trend. It's a choice of life. A deliberate, thoughtful, strategic choice. It doesn't make you live poorly, but makes you live focused. It doesn't force you to sacrifice joy, but helps you rediscover what's truly important. In this chaotic era, simplification is no longer a luxury choice, but a necessity if you want to remain sane, stay afloat, and move forward steadily. Rich people understand that. What about you? Are you ready to start your journey of financial simplification and life optimization today? When you start the journey of simplification, you'll realize one thing. Most of the things you once thought were necessary are actually just habits, social pressure, or the fear of being left behind. You once thought you needed a new car to be like your friends. You once thought you needed to buy a house early to keep up with everyone. You once thought you needed to pursue many things at once to make the most of your time. But when you peel back those layers, you'll see more clearly what's truly important in your life. Simplification doesn't start from your wallet. It starts from within, from daring to ask, what is enough for me? Rich people set very clear boundaries. They don't do extra work just because others do. They don't buy more just because there's a promotion. They know that one wrong decision today can cost them an entire year later. Therefore, they choose carefully, do little, but do it well. Buy little, but buy quality. Live simply, but with depth. Simplification helps them avoid costly mistakes, both financially and mentally. They are not exceptionally intelligent, but they know how to keep themselves from being drawn into the negative spirals that society whispers in your ear every day.
You can see many people out there who are exhausted by the very lives they created for themselves. They're in credit card debt, they're stuck in long-term installment payments, they live in big houses but are constantly worried about losing their jobs. They dress luxuriously but are full of anxiety inside. They work nonstop but cannot truly enjoy a peaceful meal. And all this is because they didn't stop to ask, am I living true to my values? Rich people don't let themselves fall into that situation. They don't let finances control them. They control their finances through simplification and mindfulness. When you start to simplify, you also start to regain the power of choice. Previously, you had to work because you were afraid of not having money. Now, you work because you want to and because it's worth it. Previously, you spent money because of emotions. Now, you spend for goals. Previously, you lived passively, reacting to everything. Now, you actively select every single thing that enters your life. That is the transformation that only simplification can bring. And the best part is, you don't need to wait until you're rich to do it. You can start today from the smallest things.
Try opening your wallet and looking at how many things in there you don't actually use. Look at your daily schedule. How many tasks in there can you actually eliminate? Review the list of expenses you've made in the last 30 days. How many of them were because you truly needed it or just because it seemed appealing at the time? The answer will surprise you, and if you're brave enough to admit, "I've been living a bit chaotically," then that's when you're ready to live a different life. A lighter, clearer, more abundant life. Simplification doesn't mean cutting everything off, but keeping what's worthwhile. Keep the work that truly creates value. Keep the relationships that truly support you. Keep the expenses that truly help you grow. And when you keep the right things, your life will become easier to breathe than ever before. You'll have time to sip a cup of coffee without worrying about deadlines. You'll have money to take your parents on a trip without bothering about next month's bills. You'll have space to dream bigger because you're no longer dragged down by trivial things. Rich people are not ascetic. They are people who know how to organize their lives so they don't have to suffer. And simplification is how they do it. They don't compete. They don't chase. They don't panic when the market fluctuates. They maintain their rhythm of life because they have eliminated all unnecessary things. You can do the same. No need to change everything at once. Just start by asking yourself every day, is this truly necessary? And gradually, you will take steady steps towards the abundant life you deserve. When you maintain simplicity in your mindset and finances, you start to realize something important. Freedom is not about how much money you have, but about how much of your life you control. Rich people don't live feeling dragged along. They live by their own decisions. They can say no to unsuitable opportunities. They can stop without fear of being left behind. They can rest without guilt because they know that everything they are doing is within their control. That is the deepest essence of wealth, self-determination. Simplification is not just a technique for reorganizing finances. It's how you regain control. When you simplify, you know exactly what's happening in your wallet, in your schedule, and even in your thoughts. You no longer live by reaction. You live by strategy. And when you live strategically, you will no longer be overwhelmed by a sense of insecurity when unexpected things happen.
Because you have a financial cushion, you have time to react calmly, and you have a solid mindset to make the right decisions. Look at how rich people plan. They don't plan every day with a packed schedule. They plan by priority. They know what work brings the biggest results, and they dedicate time to it. What can be delegated, they assign. What is unnecessary, they discard. Their time management reflects exactly how they manage money: sensible allocation, clear goals, elimination of waste. Simplification is the core operating principle of life, not just a way of spending money. You can apply this principle today. No need to change everything at once. Just choose one area in your life that feels chaotic: finances, work, relationships, time, and start decluttering. The first step could be to write down all your expenses from the past week. Review your list of friends and chat groups you're in. Look at your work schedule for this week and cross out meaningless appointments. Every small action like that will give you a little more space in your mind, in your time, and in your wallet. Rich people always maintain a certain amount of empty space in their lives. They don't let everything get crammed. Their schedules always have free time for thinking. Their accounts always have a portion of emergency funds. Their minds always have space to breathe, to receive new ideas, to reevaluate everything. That's why they react more flexibly, are less passive, and are better at seizing opportunities than others. Simplification helps them maintain that flexibility, and that flexibility is the foundation for building sustainable wealth. You might think, I'm not even making enough to live, let alone simplify. But that's exactly why you need to simplify. Because when you are already abundant, you will make fewer mistakes. But when you are struggling, every wrong decision will cost you much more dearly. So simplification is not for the rich. It is a tool to help those who are not yet rich move faster towards freedom. When you are not distracted, you are not wasteful, you are not burdened by debt, you have more opportunities to accumulate. And when you accumulate enough, you will start to invest. That is the cycle rich people always go through.
Remember, being rich is not about having more than others. Being rich is about having enough for what you choose. Some people live on 10 million dong a month but always have surplus. Some people earn 100 million dong a month but are still short. The difference lies in the minimalist mindset. Minimalist people always know what they truly need. They don't spend to show off. They don't work to please anyone. They live by their own standards, simple, neat, but full of power. And they are not swayed by public opinion, by advertising, by comparisons. They walk their own path and go very far. If you are tired of chasing too many things, stop. If you see your life tangled like a ball of yarn, start untangling one knot at a time. No need to rush, no need to be noisy, but step by step, you will see that within simplicity lies a greater power than any complexity you've ever experienced. And from there, you will find true freedom. Not freedom because you have a lot, but freedom because you know you have enough. Not because you can do everything, but because you choose to do the right things and let go of the rest. That's how rich people live, and you can too. When you practice financial simplification long enough, you'll realize something extremely important. You don't need to be rich by other standards. You only need enough to live true to your values and have enough surplus not to be influenced by trivial things. Rich people understand this very well, so they don't spend money to prove their status.
They don't need to buy luxury cars to be respected, not big houses to be admired, not branded clothes to feel confident. They know true confidence comes from within, from competence, from self-understanding, from good control over finances and life. That's also why truly rich people often live very simply. They might use an old phone if it still works well. They might wear the same type of shirt every day without feeling ashamed. They choose to spend on what truly serves their goals instead of chasing trends. Simplification allows them to channel resources into truly profitable investments, knowledge, assets, quality relationships. And from those things, their finances grow steadily and sustainably, instead of impulsively like those who spend emotionally. You might be thinking, rich people say that because they have money, but on the contrary, it's precisely because they once didn't have money that they understood the value of simplification. Many people started from scratch, from a normal job, from a tight salary, but instead of spending it all to keep up with a superficial life, they chose to simplify. They didn't go out drinking every weekend, didn't borrow money to buy a flashy car, didn't invest because they listened to others. They lived below their financial means to save, to accumulate, to wait for opportunities. And when opportunities came, they were ready because their lives were organized, not chaotic, not burdensome. Simplification helps you maintain clarity in a chaotic world. When everyone around you is running, you can walk slowly but not lose your way. When everyone spends money to relieve emotions, you hold back to think. When everyone fears missing out, you choose to focus. That's how rich people survive amidst the storm. They don't panic because they've cleared away everything that could make them fall. They simplify, not because it's a trend, but because they understand that complexity always entails risk, while simplicity helps them go far while staying light. You want to invest? Simplify your portfolio. Don't hold 10 investment channels just because everyone says they're opportunities. Choose 1 or 2 channels you deeply understand, work thoroughly, and can control. You want to start a business? Simplify your model. Don't expand too quickly. Don't hire staff indiscriminately. Don't borrow money to buy an image. Stay lean, turn over quickly, react flexibly. You want financial freedom? Simplify your expectations. Don't think you need billions of dong to live happily. Maybe you only need 20 million dong a month, but it's stable, proactive, and comes from a system you created. When expectations are simplified, the path will be closer. Rich people continually simplify, even when they already have enough, because they understand that the fewer things they have to worry about, the more space they have to create. The fewer trivial decisions they make, the clearer they are with big decisions. The fewer possessions they have, the easier it is to be flexible. They are not bound by assets. They own everything, but are still ready to let go if it no longer holds value.
Simplification doesn't make them lack. It helps them clearly see what truly brings wealth: time, health, clarity, and autonomy. If you're feeling overwhelmed, perhaps the problem isn't your income, but that you're holding on to too many unnecessary things, too many commitments, too many expectations, too much impulsive spending, too many fears. It's time to peel off each layer, gently but decisively. Remove a meaningless meeting. Remove an expense for show. Remove a job just to maintain an image. The more you remove, the clearer you will see. And when everything is clear, you will start moving in the right direction. Simplification is not about making you live without. It's about making you live at the right level, in the right way, with the right values. Simplification doesn't make you suffer. It makes you happier because you're no longer straining to live like others. You don't have to borrow money to prove yourself. Don't have to tire yourself out to keep up. Don't have to trade time for unworthy things. You live as yourself, neat, stable, confident. That is the greatest wealth you can possess, and no one can take it away from you. When you live simply, you are no longer influenced by external factors. You are no longer startled by sales. You no longer feel anxious when you see others showing off houses, cars, lavish lives. You learn to stand firm in a crowd without needing to shout for attention. You can be quiet but full of courage, and that makes you different. Rich people don't need daily praise. They don't need anyone's recognition to feel valuable. Their value lies in their inner strength, built from principles of simplification, discipline, and consistency over time. Rich people know that stability doesn't come from earning a lot, but from keeping a lot. And to keep, you need to simplify, because only when your life is not cluttered can you control it. Too many needs, you'll chase them. Too many commitments, you'll be tied down. Too much debt, you'll lose freedom. But when everything is simplified to just enough, you'll be surprised to find your life feels much lighter. Lighter from thoughts, lighter from emotions, lighter from pressure. And from that lightness, you'll start making wiser, stronger, more decisive choices than ever before. Simplification is not boring at all. On the contrary, it's a door to a deeper life. Instead of eating quickly to make it to work on time, you can enjoy breakfast slowly in mindfulness. Instead of spending money on 10 cheap and easily broken items, you choose one really good item and use it for a long time. Instead of following breaking news every day, you spend time reading a life-changing book deeply. Rich people are very good at delving deep into one thing instead of knowing many things superficially. And it's that ability to focus deeply that makes them break through, while others are perpetually distracted. Once you understand simplification deeply, you'll start applying it to every aspect, not just money, but also work, relationships, time, and health. You'll find you don't need to meet everyone, don't need to keep in touch with people who no longer share your direction. You are no longer afraid of being judged when you refuse an invitation, a meeting, or a request from someone. You filter, you streamline, you protect your living space, protect your mind, protect your energy. That's how you create a financial and mental safe zone to grow strong from within. Rich people regularly audit their lives. They don't just check their savings accounts or investment assets, but they also audit their time, relationships, and satisfaction with each decision. They don't let things drift unconsciously. Every action, every expense, every commitment is consciously considered, and thus they can adjust quickly when something isn't working. This is the key point that allows them to maintain steady growth. They don't let mistakes drag on. Simplification helps them spot errors early and correct them in time. You can do that too. Start by writing down what in your life is truly creating value. What makes you tired but doesn't yield results? What can you let go of? What can you do less of? What are you doing just out of habit or because others expect it? Be honest with yourself. Don't be afraid to let go. Don't be afraid of what people say, because in the end, you are the one who has to live with the consequences of your choices, not them. Simplification won't turn you into a cold or insensitive person. It will only help you waste less energy on unimportant things so you have more energy for things that truly matter. You'll have time to take care of yourself, have the mindset to listen to loved ones, have money to help those in need without hesitation. You will live more deeply, not by appearance, but by true presence in every moment. And that presence makes your life richer than ever before. Rich people do little, but do it right. They are not rushed, they don't show off, they are not led by public opinion. They know what they need, and they go in the right direction. They can be silent for a long time, but one day they surprise the world with what they have quietly built. That is the nature of sustainable success. It's not noisy, it doesn't need tricks, it just needs a persistent, minimalist, and strategic person. If you understand this, you are ready to start your own journey to wealth. Gentle but effective, simple but powerful. Simplification is the foundation, and consistency is the bridge that takes you from just getting by to true abundance. Rich people don't succeed overnight. They don't get rich from a lucky investment or a miracle idea. They simply persist in a minimalist, focused, and resilient lifestyle. Every day they do a little, let go a little, optimize a little, and little by little they build assets, time, and freedom that others think are impossible.
Instead of maintaining relationships for politeness, you choose to filter them to find true companions. Rich people don't simplify to suffer, they simplify to live authentically. They don't aim to have everything, they aim to have what's most needed. They don't want to be busy, they want to be proactive. They don't want many things, they want freedom. And that's why they can work less, worry less, feel less pressure, but their effectiveness is outstanding. Meanwhile, poor people live the opposite way. They take on a lot, work a lot, worry a lot, try a lot, but the results don't change, because the root lies in the mindset. It's not about doing a lot, but about doing the right things. It's not about knowing a lot, but about knowing how to discard what's unnecessary. Simplification is also a way to protect your psyche and spirit from the chaos of the modern age. When you constantly receive information, constantly compare, constantly are influenced, you get tired. And when you're tired, you're prone to making wrong decisions. Rich people protect themselves from this mental depletion by living a clean life, even in information, environment, and relationships. They don't follow every piece of news. They don't talk to everyone. They don't chase every trend. They know how to select to maintain a quiet, safe zone for themselves where clarity and creativity can flourish. Simplification is a silent luxury. You don't need to show off. You just need to be clear-headed and decisive enough not to carry unnecessary things. When that happens, every step you take will be steadier. Every penny you earn will be clearer. Every decision you make will be lighter but more precise. And that clarity is something many people out there never achieve in their lives because they are too busy to stop and clean up. You don't need to go fast, you just need to go light, but in the right direction. And simplification is the starting point for all that is right. Simplification is not just an act of decluttering physical possessions, but a process of rebuilding your entire belief system and way of life. It requires the courage to look directly at what's holding you back. Courage to ask, do I truly need this? For every item, every expense, every relationship, every habit. Because wealth is not in owning more, but in getting rid of unnecessary burdens. Rich people understand that they cannot fly if they carry too many heavy things. You can start with the simplest way. Write down the 3 things that are currently causing you the most pressure in life. It could be work, debt, relationships, or unfulfilled expectations. Then ask yourself, is there anything among these that I can give up, reduce, or organize more neatly? Surprisingly, when you start thinking that way, you'll find many things you can lighten that you never allowed yourself to let go of before. Simplification is giving yourself the right to clear things out so that your living space, mental space, and financial space all become clearer. Rich people don't blindly pursue goals. They know when to stop. They know what's enough. They don't try to prove themselves with numbers, awards, or public praise. They just need to know they are on the right track, living by their own value system, and are free in their choices. This clarity is what helps them avoid the dangerous trap of the poor, the trap of endless desire. Poor people often don't know when to stop, so they keep running to earn more, to have more, to be recognized more. But the more they run, the more they fall into a vicious cycle. Simplification is stopping at the right time. It's a break that prevents you from plunging into a deep hole. It's a pause for reflection before making a decision. It's a strategic step back to see the whole picture.
Rich people can temporarily stop a profitable project if they find it's no longer suitable. They can refuse a great opportunity if they find it doesn't align with the system they are building. They don't need to chase everything. They just need to focus on what creates the highest value at the lowest cost of money, time, energy, and mental peace. One of the clearest manifestations of a minimalist person is that they are not impulsive. They don't make decisions based on temporary inspiration. They don't spend money based on emotion. They put everything through a filter. Does this align with the system I'm building? If yes, they do it. If not, they stop. No explanation needed, no rationalization needed. They know that every wrong decision has a price to pay, and sometimes that price is not in their wallet, but in their spirit, time, and even opportunities they lose in the future. Simplification also helps them recover more easily from setbacks. A person who lives a very complicated life will fall into chaos when hit by a shock because they have too many things to worry about: assets, debts, intertwined responsibilities, intertwined expectations. But a minimalist person, when affected, can reorganize everything very quickly. They know exactly what they are keeping, why they are keeping it, and if necessary, they can let go at the right time to preserve the core. That flexibility is a strength that not everyone possesses. It helps them stand firm amidst changes, and sometimes it's precisely during changes that they break through more strongly than others. You can start practicing this by setting a filtering rule for yourself. For example, I will not spend any money without thinking for at least 24 hours. Or, I will not take on any new work until I finish the old work. Or simply, I will not let anyone into my life if they don't bring positive emotions or respect. Small rules like these will gradually shape a clean living system where everything has a reason, order, and clarity. And from that system, you will start building a lighter, deeper, and freer life. Simplification is not a goal, it is a tool. It's a tool to make space for what's truly important. A tool to clearly see what excess is holding you back. A tool to recover energy, regain focus, and head towards the only thing worthy of your effort, a life worth living. Rich people are not better than you because they are lucky. They are better than you because they know how to clean up their lives, clean up their finances, clean up their value system, until what remains is truly strong and effective. And from there, they walk with a lightness that others perceive as easy, but is actually a deliberate choice. Once you become accustomed to the minimalist mindset, you will start to develop an extremely valuable skill, knowing how to say no. Say no to attractive but unnecessary things. Say no to meetings, appointments, invitations that don't serve long-term goals. Say no to spending for ego, to jobs due to pressure, to commitments out of fear of offending. Rich people are very good at saying no. They are not afraid of missing out, not afraid of being disliked, not afraid of being considered arrogant, because they know that a timely no will save them a lot of time, energy, and money to do what's truly important.
Simplification helps them focus on the only thing that matters: leverage. Every action, every investment, every relationship must have leverage, meaning one effort yields multiple results. Poor people often work by trading labor for money. The more they work, the more they get tired. Rich people, on the contrary, they build systems, build assets, build networks. They choose jobs that can be scaled, operate independently, or grow exponentially.
And to do that, they are forced to simplify. Because if they take on too much, if they lack selection, they won't have enough space to implement big leverages. If you truly want to get rich, start by reducing. Reduce jobs with no future, reduce unprofitable expenses, reduce valueless relationships, reduce unhelpful habits. Simplification is the first action to regain time, then focus, then results. Poor people often try to do more. Rich people try to do things right. And unfortunately, most of us are taught how to do more from a young age, but rarely taught how to stop and select. That's why many people grow up in a state of panic, always thinking they're not enough, always thinking they need to run faster, always comparing, always competing. They plunge into work not out of passion, but out of fear. They spend money not out of need, but out of pressure. They invest not out of understanding, but out of fear of being left behind. And all this creates a chaotic life. The harder they try, the more confused they get. The more confused, the more worried. And the more worried, the more wrong decisions they make. Rich people don't let themselves fall into that spiral. They separate themselves by living simply to see life more clearly, to see themselves more clearly. You don't need to be a genius to simplify. You just need courage. Courage to say, I don't need this extra thing. Courage to cross out a plan. Courage to refuse an invitation. Courage to reorganize your life in a way that makes you breathe easier. And sometimes, the very things you let go of are what help you succeed faster. Rich people understand this very well. They don't chase everything. They only chase what they truly want. And that's why they reach the finish line faster and lighter. One more special thing. When you live simply, you will attract higher quality people. You no longer talk to people who only like to show off, compete, argue. You no longer waste time with groups of people who are always negative, complaining, blaming. You start connecting with people who live slowly but steadily, deeply but concisely. People who are not noisy but full of inner strength. And from those connections, you not only learn a mindset, but also find opportunities for collaboration and true companionship. Simplification doesn't make you less, it makes you clearer. It doesn't make you poor, it makes you rich from within. Rich in energy, rich in time, rich in wisdom, and ultimately, rich in finances. Because when everything is neat, you can run far without getting tired. You can maneuver without getting confused. You can create without distraction, and you can grow without having to shout or rush. That is the destination of the rich. Doing little, but living abundantly. Not because they are better than anyone, but because they know how to cut back. And now you know it too. Simplification not only helps you save time and money, but also helps you realize the most valuable thing in life: freedom. Freedom is not about doing nothing, but about being able to do what you truly want, with the people you truly value, at the time you are truly ready. Rich people aim for this freedom, not just accumulating material possessions. And to get there, they accept overlooking short-term glitz,
noisy applause, meaningless races. They understand that the fastest runner is not necessarily the first to cross the finish line, but the one who runs the right path with light and persistent steps. If you feel your life is too cluttered, sit down and write down 3 things you are willing to let go of to gain peace. It could be a habit of thoughtless spending, a relationship that drains you, an expectation society has placed on you for years.
Letting go is not giving up. It's a wise decision of someone who wants to take control of their life. Rich people always start by letting go of the right things to make room for what's important. They don't keep everything, they keep what has long-term value, and that makes all the difference. Simplification also trains your ability to make better decisions. When you are not overwhelmed by too many choices, your mind is clearer, faster, and more confident. Rich people never let themselves stand at 10 crossroads without knowing which way to go. They design their lives to minimize distractions. They limit the number of choices. They create their own rules. For example, they set a fixed budget for each spending category. They limit the number of projects they pursue at once. They set clear criteria for collaborators, all to reduce decision fatigue, to save mental energy for what's truly important. One principle that rich people value very, very highly is that you cannot optimize something you don't measure. And to measure, you must first simplify. When you have too many cash flows but don't categorize them clearly, you won't know which one is generating profit and which one is draining. When you have too many unnamed expenses, you won't control how you're living. But when you start recording, categorizing, grouping, and streamlining your personal financial system, you will clearly see loopholes, clearly see opportunities, and from there you start to optimize. No need to try too hard. Just being clear is enough to get rich step by step. Simplification is also a statement of life. It's how you tell the world, I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I just need to live true to my values. Truly rich people don't try to be liked by others. They focus on building sustainable value. They can be silent for months to perfect a product, optimize a process, or invest in a profit-generating system. And when they return, they astound others, not because they show off, but because their results speak for themselves. That is the beauty of simplification combined with discipline and a long-term mindset. If you're still struggling, feeling like you work endlessly but don't make progress, the problem might not be your ability but dispersion. Review how much time you spend each day on unproductive tasks. How many streams of information do you consume each week? How many goals are you pursuing at once? The answer will show you that it's time to streamline, do less, go deeper, and do higher quality work. Don't try to do more. Start by doing less. And from that reduction, you will find everything becoming clearer, lighter, faster, and richer. Rich people don't follow trends. They create trends. And to do that, they must have mental space, time for reflection, and a lean, efficient operating system. They are not stifled by the chaos of everyday life. They live simply, not because they cannot afford a complex life, but because they know strength lies in simplifying everything and then making it run smoothly. And when you live in that simplicity long enough, you will understand that financial freedom doesn't come from how much you earn, but from how much you keep, both money, energy, time, and clarity, to live true to yourself. From the moment you choose to live simply, you will feel as if you've stepped out of a prolonged trance. A world where everyone is running, but no one knows why they're running. A society where success is equated with busyness, with big houses, luxury cars, designer brands, but rarely talks about clarity, lightness, or freedom of mind. And then you realize the more you chase, the more tired you become. The more you accumulate, the heavier you become. The more you carry, the more you lose yourself. But when you stop,
Dare to reduce. Dare to clean up. You begin to see the light.